Shoes. 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 Oh my god, shoes.
Welcome back, nerds. Fino here. Lost Belt 6 looms ever closer, and it's time to take a look at our next contestant, Faerie Knight Tristan. Longtime players may know her by a different name, but that's a bit of a spoiler, so I'll hold off. How about a code name? BB Sith.
Oh, no!
Actually, you know what? Let's just call her Faerie Knight Tristan. She's a 4-star story-locked archer introduced in Avalon LaFey, and the question is less whether you should roll her. She's the constellation prize on a number of upcoming major banners, including another round of Castoria, Oberon, and 2 separate Morgan banners, so there's a pretty good chance you'll pick one up along the way. No, the question is, what can you do when you invariably get one? Let's see what's under the hood. Starting out, Tristan's kit is Grimalkin. It's a 3-turn personal quick buff with 1 turn of invulnerability for herself and 1 hit of evasion for the rest of your frontline, all for the cost of dealing a paltry 500 damage to your other teammates. This is Tristan's only steroid, and since it doubles as party protection, it's quite valuable and you shouldn't neglect leveling it. Combined with regular Skadi's Gate of Sky, you can parry multiple NPs over a small window of a few turns. Alternatively, if you run Ruler Skadi instead for her upfront benefits, Tristan will have that team's only form of protection. But in general, you do have to consider the trade-off between having your buffs immediately and sitting on them to get you out of a tight spot. Usually you can get away with going for damage, and what helps swing the calculation towards offense is our next skill, Blessed Air. It's an AoE NP and skill seal with no probabilities attached to them, meaning they'll land without fail. As an added benefit, Blessed Air doubles as a battery, 30% at max rank. So we can start to see Tristan's flow coming together of keeping your opponent just barely at arm's length, and this continues with her final skill. Vampirism is an absorption skill. It takes up to 3k health from your targeted opponent and gives it to Tristan. On top of this, it's a charge drain and another 30% battery. Couple of things to unpack here. The charge reduction isn't strictly guaranteed by default, but it caps out at 100%, and you'd want to get rank 10 for the battery anyway. Secondly, Tristan gets 60% between her 2 batteries and can have up to 80% right away if you give her the Magical Energy Append skill. This is a bit of an awkward number since the 2 Skadis give charge in 50% increments, and cheating that extra 20% will require another charger or the Mages Association Mystic Code. That is if you want to run a 0% craft essence like Black Grail. However, this state of affairs plays much more nicely with 50% CEs like Traces of Christmases Past. With Tristan's Append, you can get your first NP by only committing Blessed Air, leaving you with 130% worth of batteries in reserve, assuming double Skadi. What you're building up to with these batteries is Tristan's noble Phantasm, Fetch Fail Not. Apparently, the fetch in that name is a reference to the voodoo doll-looking thing she does. I thought it was more of a that is so fetch kind of thing. You know, on account of all the shoes. It's a single target quick attack with preemptive sure hit, and it applies a 1k curse for 5 turns. Its overcharge is a curse amp starting at 200%. Curse memes are largely just that, but if you're keen on pursuing that course of action, Tristan is not a bad option. For actually building a curse team, I'd recommend pairing Tristan with Doman. As a chaotic evil servant, Tristan gets the double dip on all of Doman's buffs. Better yet, he can apply his own suite of curses to get your damage going even higher. Really, the only downside of this pair is that, as an alter ego, Doman is typically used against cavalry servants and would have disadvantage against the sabers that Tristan would be fighting. They're still capable against berserkers and extra class servants, but their restrictive classes are a limiting factor. To continue on with the curse memes, consider some command codes. Of our current options, Demonic Beast of the Forest stands out, but in the future we'll also get options like Knight of the Abyssal Sanctuary. It grants a small number of stars which Tristan doesn't really need, but the curse magnitude is on point. The best option here is probably TikTok Bomb, which has the added effect of ignoring defense. One final trick is to run Tristan with disposable taunters that are all equipped with 500-year obsession. Not only does it apply a curse to whoever KOs its user, but it also NP seals, and that's very interesting. Remember what I said about Tristan playing a game of keep away between activations of her first skill? This helps a great deal because Tristan has, at max rank, 6 turn cooldowns across the board, so you're gonna need some help somewhere to keep ahead of enemy NPs, especially ones with shorter charge times. Now, the big bar Tristan has to clear as a 4-star quick archer isn't the original recipe Tristan, but instead the welfare servant Altera the Santa, and in terms of NP damage, the two are remarkably close at first glance. But that's only on the surface. Altera has an NP damage steroid, giving her access to all 3 major buff categories if you pair her with Ruler Skadi. However, this buff only lasts for a single turn. Tristan's quick buff persists for 3 turns, making her sustained damage a lot better. So with that in mind, I'd generally recommend Faerie Knight Tristan over Altera. Availability is a concern though. Faerie Knight Tristan may have a lot of banners, but when they aren't up, she's trapped in the story banner and only after you complete Lost Belt 6. Altera, on the other hand, was distributed at full power twice during Christmas 3 and its rerun. Anyone else can get her from the Christmas 3 main interlude and buy the remaining copies with rare prisms. It's an expensive process, but one that's available year-round. Kinda ironic for a Christmas servant. Tristan having her major steroid being a quick buff is a bit of a downer when you're stuck running her with Caster Skadi until next year. You want to get the holy trinity of a card type, attack, and either an NP or special damage buff to really get the most of your damage dealer. In this regard, Tristan is remarkably inflexible. Ruler Scotty will eventually come along to give an attack buff, but until then you'll have to get both that and a third buff category yourself. Thankfully, the Arctic uniform provides both, while also giving a small increase to your survivability. You can also get a third buff type onto Tristan via command codes. Da Vinci grants NP damage, while Anti-Saber Weapon gives damage against marketable protagonists. Craft Essences provide another avenue of acquiring these buffs. Golden Sumo, for instance, is the classic that never stops giving. You can nab an attack buff with it. I mentioned Black Grail earlier, but Holy Knight Slipper is an alternative source of NP damage, while also giving you a bit of crit, which Tristan can absolutely use. Now, Tristan does have a Bond CE, and while these are typically bad on attackers just on account of their stat line, hers is an extra dimension of weird. First of all, oh my god, shiz. Effect-wise, it's a personal NP damage buff with an on-hit effect. Every attack she deals has a 30% chance of giving 5% charge. First of all, that probability could have been 100%, and it still wouldn't be worth using. But like, why? What inspired them to make such a weak sauce effect? Absolutely baffling. Wouldn't even make a good passive. But thankfully, Tristan does have some decent passives, both Writing and Territory Creation A, meaning respectable buffs to Quick and Art's Effectiveness. Not bad. This turned out a bit shorter than I usually like, but Faerie Knight Tristan is a fairly straightforward servant. And even if you don't intend to run her with one of the two Scotties, quick team building usually involves just cycling through the usual suspects. Vous Etienne, Bratty Bart, Santa Claus with a gun. But her simplicity aside, I'll say this. As far as single target quick archers go, she gets the job done just fine. She outperforms Altera the Santa at comparable NP levels, and her batteries don't have a horrific drawback like the other Tristan. Frankly, if she had an NP interlude to bring her raw damage up to par, she'd be the best overall single target quick archer. As far as attackers go anyway. Calamity Jane is the most relevant on account of her utility. Which kinda begs the question of how necessary a quick archer is at this point. My stance on the matter is that unless you have one of the really premium arts archers like Suerturia, you go with whoever you have the most NP levels on, regardless of their card type. Depending on how your Morgan and Oberon rolls go, there's a good chance that's gonna be Tristan. So get ready for a trip to Foot Locker. Do those even exist anymore? Do you get premium heals at Foot Locker? Thanks for watching. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more, and come watch me at twitch.tv/Finotaisen, where I stream every weekend, 3 PM Pacific time, Friday through Sunday. Over on Fino and Friends, I posted some of my more recent gacha adventures, including one where I take a shot at one of the most wanted servants in this game's history, a playable Tiamat. See you there.